Carol, I am so excited to welcome you to the Wharton Future of Work Conference. We're going to have a conversation about mindset, something most of us think immediately of productivity, success, achievement. And what I'd like this conversation to do is to cover that territory, but also the themes of equity, inclusion, support. What are your thoughts on that? Because you must have heard so many questions directed at you about the former topic and maybe wanted to give voice to the broader themes that I just mentioned.
Angela, it's my huge pleasure to be here. And that's exactly what I want to talk about: productivity, innovation on the one hand, and motivation, belonging, support, collaboration, inclusion, and equity on the other hand.
Now, I think as a starter, to be honest, and I'm not exaggerating, there are no CEOs that I know who do not have a dog-eared copy of Mindset on their desk. But for those who don't know as much about what a growth mindset is, could you begin with defining that in your own words?
In our research, mindsets are beliefs people have about their personal qualities, like intelligence, talent. In a fixed mindset, people believe these qualities are just fixed traits. You have a certain amount, and that's it. Some people are lucky, some not so lucky. But in a growth mindset, the belief is that these basic qualities like intelligence and talent can be developed through effort, but not just effort, through good strategies, lots of mentoring, support, help from others. Now, growth mindset doesn't mean everyone's the same or anyone can do anything. It just means everyone has the potential for growth. And you never know in advance how much growth is possible under the right conditions.
I wonder, Carol, have you always had a growth mindset? Because full confession, when I fathom really what it means to have a growth versus a fixed mindset, I recognize that kind of a younger Angela was pretty fixed mindset about a lot of things, about being athletic, about being a math person, about being a natural writer. So I wondered, before we move on to the implications of mindsets for leaders, I wondered if you might share personally what your own journey has been.
Yes. It's probably no accident that we're studying fixed and growth mindsets. My sixth grade teacher seated us around the room in IQ order. It was already a high IQ school, and it was the top IQ class in the sixth grade. And yet she felt the need to do that. Now, full confession, I had the seat of honor, but it practically ruined me. I
You were in the first seat.
I never wanted to take a challenge again. I never wanted to compete in the citywide spelling bee or the math this or that. I never wanted to blemish or risk that view of myself. And ultimately, I recognized how incredibly limiting that was. It became my life's work to develop my own growth mindset and to kind of bottle it and share it with the world. Because for me, taking on challenges, persisting in the face of obstacles, figuring things out, capitalizing and learning from failure. That's kind of the meaning of life.
Yeah, and I think one thing that, you and I share is it's not achievement as a kind of ultimate glory. It's just about living life and trying to, you know, be a fulfilled person and to,
Mhm.
do things that, make you and other people happy. And on that note, let's turn to leadership because, this is an audience of leaders. And I think there are important implications of mindsets, in particular for leaders and organizations.
Mhm.
So I wondered if you would speak a bit to that.
So for a long time, we felt that Mindsets were about individuals having a fixed or a growth mindset. But then the question became, can you just add up all these people with growth mindsets to make an organizational culture? Can you teach everyone the growth mindset and say you have a growth mindset company? I wasn't specifically thinking about this. And then one day, Mary Murphy, who was then a student, a graduate student at Stanford, now a superstar.
Now a total rock star.
Oh,
We're both in the fan club. You're
yes.
an earlier member, but I signed up.
She walked into my office and said, you've been treating mindsets as just something in a person's head. But what about organizational mindsets? Aren't there beliefs that are embedded in the culture of companies and then expressed in the company's values and policies and practices? And it just resonated. So, in this view, a whole company can have a fixed mindset where they believe in and they worship fixed talent. We called this the culture of genius. And I'm sure many organizations are coming to mind for people. Or a company can believe in and commit to the idea that everyone can develop their abilities. And we call this a culture of development. And as I implied before, who knows what people are capable of with the right collaboration, support, mentoring, etc.
So I wonder, on this topic of cultures, mindset cultures, that Mary, was the real catalyst for. Is there any new and exciting research that you would like this leadership audience to know about?
Yeah, I'd love to tell about the research. So once Mary showed up in my office and we resonated, um, she went and conducted 5 studies. And I'll just tell you, more than anything else, they were so compelling because we understood, look, we're social animals and we're concerned about our success. Everyone wants to succeed in the settings that are important to them. So they kind of sniff out, what does this company value? And they try to embrace it and embody it. And when they sniff out the mindset of an organization, this research shows they really hop to. So the first studies were really with college students. They were applying to a tutoring organization at their university. And half of them read that the organization believed in a fixed mindset, and that was the bedrock of their tutoring. And the other half read that the organization they were applying to believed in a growth mindset, and that was the bedrock of their tutoring. So it was no surprise when they filled out their applications. Those who read about the fixed mindset organization kind of touted their what we called smarts, their IQ, their SATs, their GPA, their academic awards. Those who read about the growth mindset organization put more emphasis on passion for learning, dedication to helping others learn. So no surprise, because you want to match your application to the club. But the story didn't end there. Here was the surprise. Later, when they filled out various questionnaires, they were more likely to say that these qualities, smarts versus dedication, define them as people, not in relation to that organization. These were their core traits, they said. These were the things they most valued in themselves. And then later, we put them in a situation where they were asked to make a hiring decision for a completely different organization. And they used the same criteria: smarts versus dedication to evaluate and hire someone, even when the resumes showed equivalent credentials.
I love it's like a parable, scientific experiment as parable,
Yeah,
because it really does show the power of culture, of organizations, of leaders to really shape lives. And, I wonder, there are a lot of people in this conversation with us who are, they're not CEOs, or they may not be in the C-suite. So they may be thinking, Carol, does this also apply at the team level? Maybe I only have 5 or 6 people with me. Do I still need to think about culture, and shared values?
absolutely. I did want to say one more little thing. The culture mindset overrode their personal mindsets. Some of them came in with a growth mindset, but they couldn't use it. Just like any little smidgen of growth mindset I had could not be used in my sixth grade class. So that culture is powerful. And then, yes, as you asked, it matters at the team level. And we'll see later, Microsoft, when it overhauled itself in terms of creating a growth mindset culture, really focused on the team level. Every team leader was a coach that constantly worked on every employee's growth. And every employee was a coach of other employees, constantly supporting each other's growth.
Carol, can you say more about organizational culture, what it looks like, paint us a picture? And again, I know this is based on research and not just anecdote.
Yes. So, led by Mary Murphy and her student Elizabeth Canning, we went into actual Fortune 1000 organizations and surveyed employees. And what we found was really striking. When employees perceive their company to hold a fixed mindset compared to a growth mindset, they said the company was less likely to foster collaboration. At this company, they were less likely to agree with. At this company, people get points for working together. They were they said the company was less likely to foster innovation, so they didn't agree with people are encouraged to be innovative at this company. Creativity is welcome. In fact, they said they thought the company would not have their backs if they took a smart risk, but it didn't work out. And they were less likely to say the company fostered integrity. So in this case, they were more likely to agree. In this company, there's a lot of cheating, taking shortcuts, and cutting corners to get ahead. And the supervisors said those same things about their employees. They don't work together, they're not as innovative, and there's a lack of integrity. But here's my favorite. The supervisors in the more fixed mindset organizations said that they perceived less leadership potential in their employees. Why is that my favorite? Because the fixed mindset companies, they hire the talent, they scour for the talent, they foster the talent, they promote the talent, they reward the talent. But then a few years later, they go, "Where's the talent?"
We have a talent problem.
Yeah, we have a talent problem. Whereas the supervisors in the more growth mindset companies, they saw the potential in the people that they supervised.
So, Carol, this is related to another question I wanted to ask, which is, how is growth mindset related to inclusion?
Well, Mary Murphy and her student Catherine Emerson are really showing that people perceive their growth mindset companies as creating a greater sense of belonging and as providing more opportunities and support for advancement for underrepresented groups. So I'm really excited to see that research develop.
And I think that gets us back to where we began, which is, how is growth mindset not just about becoming a high performer, but also these other values, which I think in the last couple of years have come to the fore. I did want to ask you about this word talent. I try not to use it myself as a mentor or as a parent. I just wonder what your feelings are about language, because quite obviously, one of the ways in which shared values in a culture, in
Mhm.
an organization, in a team come out and are reinforced is through language.
Yes. I don't use the word talent in real life. Um, um, and here I'm making clear, but business often uses the word talent. And so here I want to talk about it as something that can be developed. But I agree with you. There are better words, less loaded, less fixed in their nuances.
Do you want to suggest any synonyms for talent for those who are now asking themselves for the Carol Dweck thesaurus?
Well, what are the words that you have used?
Well, as you know, a student that we both admire, Danny Southwick, is asking the question, could organizations use the word skill instead of talent? Because his research is showing that it is much more of a growth mindset connotation, that people widely recognize that skills are not born, they're
Mhm.
learned, they require support, mentorship, opportunities to practice and fail. Whereas there's something about talent that suggests, at least to many people, that it's innate, that it's a
Yes.
gift.
Yes, I'm totally on board with skills. Skills are what we use to get our work done and to figure out challenges and to analyze and learn from failures. So I'm totally on board with skills.
Carol, do you have any real world examples that are relevant to the workplace that can give us some traction about how to take this conversation and put it into action?
Yeah, I do because it's important to know what growth mindset organizations look like and feel like. And I'll just start with one of the first companies that I visited, one of the first makeovers that was being attempted by a company. So I was really excited to visit them. They're a large financial organization, one of the world's largest derivative exchanges. So, I'm going and expecting this buttoned up derivative exchange set of people. And I get there and the door is open for me and the doorman says, "Good morning, Professor Dweck. We're so excited to have you here." Wow. And then there's the security guard who greeted me similarly and waved my book at me. And I thought, oh my goodness, they didn't just get it for the muckamucks and the financial whizzes, everybody. And then I went to the sign-in desk, and the staff there said, "Professor Dweck, we're so looking forward to your talk." And I thought, wow, everybody goes to the talk. And that's what it felt like. But the most amazing thing, there were sign up sheets all around the lobby for projects that anyone in the company could sign up for. I'm tearing up even as I say it. You could be on the cleaning staff and you could sign up for a project. And the people there felt not just respected, but honored for the people that they could become if they wanted to. And then, of course, there's Microsoft. um, so when Satya Nadella took over Microsoft as CEO in 2014, it was really in decline. It lost the battle for smartphones. Its main revenue stream, software licenses, was vulnerable because of cloud computing, which they weren't leaders of either. And the Windows unit was trying to crush internal competition that might take away some of its power. Ooh, so in terms of culture, it was a culture of genius and power. It wasn't about collaboration, pitting people and departments against each other. It wasn't a place of innovation. It was about protecting old products ahead of creating new ones. By late 2018, they were at the top again, over 90% Glassdoor ratings of employee satisfaction, 97% approval rating for the CEO. What did they do? How did they do it? And they did it through the same exact things we've been talking about. First, employee empowerment and support through collaborations. Every manager was made to feel and be first and foremost a coach, continually fostering employee growth at every level. All employees were coaches and supporters of each other. Departments were expected to collaborate across their divides and across even companies. They collaborated with companies they used to compete with. Second, innovation. They created series of moonshots. That is, shoot for the moon, you're likely to fail. They knew they would fail in most of them, and those were expensive failures. But
Multi-million dollar failures,
billion, maybe.
maybe tens of millions. I don't.
But they succeeded with AI and cloud technology. And whoa, that's what led the turnaround. And smart risks were rewarded whether they succeeded or not, especially if they yielded insights that could push the company forward. In fact, there's an organization in a foundation, Silicon Valley, that has Failure of the Year award for just that. They had hackathons where any employee in the world could create a team, develop an idea, build a prototype. And leaders, innovations and leaders of all kinds emerged from the hackathons, leaders who never would have been found otherwise. And by the way, the hackathons can be social ideas, not just business ideas. Inclusion programs, including one that I love, the CEO visits every arm of the company every year to identify promising people from underrepresented groups. And then ethics, a broad social vision, not just short-term profits. So they work with competitors, other tech companies, other giant organizations, to advance societal goals and to envision the future of AI that will support rather than undermine human growth and fulfillment. So the innovation, the support, the inclusion, and the ethical social missions made them a different company. And I want to say it's hard. It's not that they waved a wand. It takes years of constant work to root out the old habits, the hierarchy, the culture of genius, and institute new ones. And that job is never over. Innovation is never over. Inclusion is never over. Culture has to be perpetually renewed.
Carol, I want to ask, I guess in conclusion, then, maybe if there is some skepticism about all that you've said, I mean, it just sounds like a fountain of awesomeness with no real downside and actually no real cost, right? You don't have to actually buy anything to, not that it's not a lot of work, but it's kind of open for everyone to have a culture that encourages development, that embodies the value and the belief of a growth mindset. Is there any dark underbelly of growth mindset? Is there any benefit of a culture of genius? I can't think of one, but I thought maybe you had an idea.
It was a culture of genius, and it did succeed, but it had within it the seed of its own demise.
So it's a kind of fragile kind of success when you walk around the world as a company or as an individual thinking, "How smart am I?"
Yeah, and
You
I've got the permanent answers. And also, I think after the pandemic, people are not gonna wanna be in those organizations that are cold, where they feel they don't belong, where they're low on the totem pole, where they're not fulfilling, where they're not fostering of mental health of the employees. The culture has become more and more and more important, and it has to be one that supports and feeds and buoys up individuals in their work and in their lives.
Well, Carol, we began with your sixth grade classroom and the seating chart arranged by IQ. And you also shared with us kind of a portrait of pre Satya Nadella Microsoft culture. I think we can all agree that maybe nobody feels secure in a culture like that, even if you are in the number one seat. And then you painted a picture of this, you know, remarkable derivatives exchange. I don't know many people who can bring a tear jerking story to derivatives exchange, but you did. And then, of course, Microsoft under the great leadership of Satya Nadella. So I want to thank you on behalf of Wharton Future of Work. This to me is not just about achievement and productivity, as you say, but about the most important things. You know, feeling like you belong, feeling like you're you're leading a fulfilled life, and that you're accepted and respected.